John really liked this word keep. He used it a lot. He used the phrase, keep his commandments in various ways 7 times in 1 John. Just 5 chapters, he used it 7 times. He wasn't using it as a hammer to beat people, to reminding them over and over again to tell them to keep the commandments. He was using it as a measuring rod for instructing the people and encouraging the people to judge themselves. If we keep his commandment. If we keep his commandments, then you'll find this. If you're not keeping his commandments, then you'll find this. But John liked to use this word keep. He also said in chapter 5 that he that is begotten of God keepeth himself. So that broadens your perspective of keep. Keeping commandment now, or keeping is not just performance; it's retention. Yeah. It's more than just what you do. Keeping, he that is begotten of God keepeth himself. He ends this letter, the first epistle, in a unique way as compared to all of the other letters. He ends it by saying this: little children, keep yourselves from idols. That's the end of the book. No farewells. No, remember to do this. No, greet the brethren, which you have in other letters. Greet this brother and greet this sister in the church that's in their house. Greet them. And Paul closed some letters that way. John closed his letter like this: little children, keep yourselves from idols. I remember a time in my life reading this book that it sounded like to me that John just took a bunch of thoughts and just kind of compiled them all together into this compressed little book of 5 chapters. But it's not just a bunch of piled up thoughts. Keep yourselves from idols. It is actually a very fitting conclusion to the things that he wrote in this book. Keep yourselves from idols. I want to exhort you tonight about this first phrase in verse 5. Whoso keepeth his word, in him verily the love of God is perfected. Just the thought of something perfect has a good sound to it. Nothing in this world is perfect. And the sound of the love of God being perfected in you, it has a wholesome drawing sound, a quality about it that is more than intriguing. If I keep this word, God's love will be perfected in me. Well, at least I can, if I don't understand much about that, I can at least say that this would be good. Yeah, right. This would be good if this takes place in me. And if I keep this word, God's love will be perfected in me. Yeah. My retention of his word is the open door for God to perfect his love in me. If I keep it. It reminds me of David saying, thy word have I hid in my heart. He was keeping it. He was retaining it. Possessing it. You remember after the shepherds came to Jesus and Mary and Joseph, and they said the things that they had seen, and then later the wise men came and they gave gifts to Jesus, and this was, it must have been rather confounding to Mary and Joseph, but the scripture says that Mary kept all these things. Yeah. She didn't let these things go. Yeah, right. She kept them. The book of Hebrews tells us, therefore we ought to give the more earnest heed to the things which we have heard, lest at any time we should let them slip. That's the opposite of keeping them. Let them slip. Amen. I continually marvel at how my mind works, and I think that I'm probably not unique among humanity, but I'm amazed at the things that I want to remember and I can't, and I'm amazed at the things I want to forget and can't. The things that stick in my mind against my will, and the things I have to continually put back in my mind and back in my mind and back in my mind. Whoso keepeth his word. in him, verily, the love of God is perfected. Give the more earnest heed to it, or it will slip.
That's right. Yeah.
It will slip. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly. Not make it. That would make this word that Paul gave to the Colossians, that would make it a completely different thrust.
Right.
If he said, make the word of Christ dwell in you richly. No, he said, let it. What's that tell you? Is that it's the nature of the word of Christ to dwell in you richly. You have to let it do it.
Amen.
You have to hinder it. If it's not going to dwell in you richly, it has to be hindered. Let it dwell in you richly.
Amen.
Rid yourself of any and all hindrances.
Amen.
Push them aside and to let the word of Christ dwell in you richly. Don't set it at naught. Don't set it aside. Let it dwell in you richly. Now, this word keep, I've already mentioned, is not remembering to do everything he told you to do. That is involved. But you actually have to retain his word before you can do his word. Doing his word will not make you to retain his word, but retaining his word will enable you to do his word. Retaining his word in keeping it is actually a greater work than doing it. Humanity has proved in other world religions that men can be very successful in disciplining themselves in specific routines, and they can modify their behavior to incredible lengths. So it doesn't require the grace of God to actually change someone's behavior. It does require grace to keep his word. And when you keep his word, then you will keep his commandments. There are greater matters, and things more weighty than others. And the weightier matter here is that you retain the word. That's the weightier matter. That's the as Jesus said, the greater that you shouldn't omit. That's retaining the word, possessing the word, holding on to the word. Let no one take it from you. As Solomon said, buy the truth and sell it not. That's keeping the word. Don't sell it. Consider this, the parable that Jesus told of the sower and the seed and the soil. That's more of a parable about the soil than it is the seed. There's all the different kinds of soil. The ground by the wayside did not keep the word. Think about this. Whosoever keepeth his word, in him verily the love of God was perfected. The ground which is by the wayside didn't keep it.
Yeah, that's right.
Very literally, it didn't keep it. Because the birds took it away. Straightway, the birds took it away. So it didn't keep. But the stony ground didn't keep it either. It kept it for a longer time. But the stony ground couldn't boast against the wayside and say, I kept the seed for longer than you did, because the stony ground, it sprang up and then it was scorched, so it didn't keep the word. And the thorny ground, the stony ground didn't keep it, the wayside didn't keep it, the thorny ground didn't keep it either, because it kept it long enough for it to grow up, and then the thorns choked it out and killed it, so it didn't keep it either. The only ground that kept the word was the good soil where it bore fruit. Because after it bore fruit, it still had the word. It still had the seed. It kept it. It retained it. And that's the ground that bore the fruit.
That's right.
So in that ground, the seed of the word, the seed of God was perfected. Because it kept the word. And Jesus said that in his explanation to the apostles. The good ground are those who keep the word and with patience bear fruit. With patience and endurance. So we have these treasures in earthen vessels. I know that I refer to this text a lot. We have this treasure in earthen vessels. Quite a commentary on our Constitution. An earthen vessel. So we have to, in order to keep the word, the input into our vessel has to be a greater volume than the leaks.